What's that?
Perfect. You want to be that guy?
What up, everybody? Welcome to DC TV. My name is Brad. We got Jaime over here, Coach Tamp, as well as at the Real Data Lord. It is another beautiful day, but we have more to catch up with on the whole FTX fallout and how everybody's being affected. It's more than just a ripple effect. It's a goddamn tidal wave. We're going to be looking into all of that stuff, so make sure you guys are staying tuned. But we have futures that we're looking at right now, and everything's flat. Which isn't actually a bad thing, I don't think. Yesterday, everything was slightly down. It was really not that big of a deal considering we had a monster week last week in the overall markets. And then I'm looking at Bitcoin right now as well. There it is. It's down 425 points, which is good for 2.5%. It is at $16,520 per Bitcoin. What's up, everybody?
Hola. How we doing?
Really good. I think we only have a screenshot of the Data Lord.
Damn it. Frozen AF.
That is a pose right there, though. If there was a pose,
can't help it. Yeah, that's a good one.
Pose for you to be frozen on. That would be the one.
And Don's MIA. Come on, guys.
Yeah. I know. No call, no show, Don. Thanks, bruh.
Oh, there he is.
There's your usual Wednesday.
Hey, Don, how about you get out of the chat and get onto the stream? What in the world?
Oh my God. All right. So as I'd mentioned, Bitcoin's down again, and we do have a little bit more of a fallout here. But any thoughts, I guess, before we get into the whole Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX debacle on just Bitcoin in general? Sitting around 16,200. Any more to kind of dissect right now, or is it more just like,
if we go to the weekly, you can see what's happening on it, but it is right now, after taking a weekly dump, it's in a stage where it's either accumulating or distributing. That can bounce. It remains to be seen. I will pull up the chart now. It's coming up, but we're in a moment where either we're gonna continue down or return up. That isn't helpful in terms of the verbiage itself, but you will see what this, let's go to weekly. Here we go. And
yeah, it's being weird for me today. I don't know what, there it is.
There you go.
There we go.
So let's share this screen, and man,
I got you.
Data Lord is really impressed.
He's not amused.
So we're literally at the moment where we took the dump and crossed the bottom Fibonacci moving average, dropped below one of the floors, the previous floor where we're at, tried to return to hit it as resistance, as a ceiling. And now we're in the process of retracing back to the point where we began the consolidation. So at this moment, the big question is, with this retreat, by Sunday, we will know if we continue further down or remain sideways for the moment. But again, the advice here, do your own research, is dollar cost average is the best solution. Do nothing until we see what actually is going to happen with Bitcoin overall. If you understand in what we're building, what Bitcoin is building towards, continue dollar cost averaging into it. If you're just speculating, wait for confirmation of where it's headed before you start dumping your speculative money in there. And if it is speculative money, for the love of God, do not put your mortgage and any money you need tomorrow or the next week.
Right.
If you understand technical trading, do it, follow your instinct, lay the plan, and work the plan.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at currently. And of course, now we have to look at what's going on the macro in terms of legislation, Sam Bankman-Fried and all the players involved, because a lot of the movement today, they're even calling this SBF situation as a black swan event. But a lot of the people who are in the crypto industry were already seeing the signs. It finally took CZ, which is a foreign exchange, to be and an original investor of FTX, to start seeing the signs of, okay, this is off. So in this case, he made the announcement, hey, I'm getting rid of the FTTs. He's moving against the community overall. And no one expected the implosion that now we're following and tracking. And keep in mind that Sam Bankman-Fried and the teams, the political groups he's been working with in the US state side, were working on a legislation to pass through Congress on cryptocurrencies. And it is not a favorable legislation. It's going to cause more problems than actually solve them.
That's right. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. I actually have the breakdown of this legislation that's going through that actually gives the government the right to keep the cryptocurrency that they seize.
Yes.
Which is very interesting. So we're going to be talking about that in just a moment. Before we get into all of that, though, let's see. Are we back? We are back.
Sometimes Mama told me to reboot my computer if it ain't treat me right.
Oh, I thought that was gonna work.
Yeah,
gonna work. We're gonna have to
Looks like looks between you.
I know. We're like split in half. It's not gonna work. So
is this really a Black Swan event, though, Jaime?
Go ahead.
Is this really is FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried really a Black Swan event?
Feels plain to me.
I don't think so at all.
It's almost too staged, to be honest. I mean, all the whitewashing, if you look at any traditional media outlet, they aren't calling Sam Bankman-Fried for what he's done.
Time out. We're going to talk about this in a moment. So I want to get into that conversation.
So spicy.
Okay? It is a spicy conversation because I have thoughts on this as well, and I do want to talk about this. Before we do, I want to welcome my Own the Chaos folks. We are also simulcasting here on Own the Chaos, as well as the Don Fran Show. And Don didn't let me know that he wasn't going to fucking be here. So he's also simulcasting without him being present. So he'll be in the chat, I'm sure, hanging out with you guys. So every time I feel like I do this, like I put Don and simulcast him, everybody on his channel is like, "Where's Don?"
It's true.
And then I have to explain where Don is.
and he doesn't show up to his own party. Come on, Don. What's going on here?
And now he's getting all the OnlyFans chicks on here.
Yeah, I'm taking care of him. Don't you worry.
Okay, so the WTF news of the day. It's very interesting, I thought. Did you know that people in Colorado, I don't understand your Coloradians. As a Coloradoans?
You better watch your mouth.
Okay, well,
but that's a good point, though. I've always wondered, people from Utah are Utahns. What are people from Tampa called?
Tampanians?
Okay, never mind. Let's go.
Tampotions.
Tampons.
Tampons?
I used to get called that when I was little in the playground.
Also,
Like, okay.
Tampa's not a state, Jaime. I don't know if you know.
I know.
Tampa's not a state, buddy.
You are from somewhere,
Bruh.
All right, so did you know that there is a new trend in Colorado? It's not brand new, but it's the trend is starting to increase.
Nice.
People are licking toads to get high.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh, I
Dude,
heard
Out in my neighborhood.
I saw an episode of this in The Simpsons a long time ago.
Yeah,
that's why I said it's not new, but the trend is growing very strong in Colorado.
Is it getting expensive? Brandon, is it getting expensive over there that they're now?
No, it's not, dude. We got campus to connect. What are you talking about?
Let's put up the article so everybody knows what the hell we're talking. Some people are like, "What?"
So I'm trying to find a better way to present this article because there's like a half naked woman right next to it. Like there's another article right. Whatever. I'm just gonna fucking do it.
Yeah, just share it.
We do it live. Yeah.
Just do it. There it is. This isn't the toad.
No.
This isn't the toad. This is the toad. Maybe they both might be toads.
I'm a model too.
Yeah.
That's right. But yeah, people in Colorado are licking this. It's the largest toad in America. It is called. I had the name. Hold on one second. It is called this. It starts with an S.
And I was like,
Sonoran,
look, what?
Sonoran desert toad. I thought the bullfrog was like the biggest. Like, well, I guess because it's a frog, it's not a toad.
Oh my goodness.
But the Sonoran desert toad is fairly easy to recognize and is the largest native toads in all the U.S., also known as the Colorado River toad. And humans, however, have in our ingenuity figured out that toads' secretions have psychoactive properties that comes with a caveat, though. In order to make the toxins safe for consumption, they need to be collected and processed. And we don't know how that works, and we wouldn't tell you even if we did. This is according to the article. In the end, though, the secretions will be turned into a powder for people to snort or smoke. This is where the issue lies. You may have heard that urban legends you can lick these toads to get high, and so the people going after them people are going after them in the wild and getting really, really sick.
Can you believe that?
Because it's poison.
It is.
You're acting like this is, some sort of new drug. It's not a drug. It's poison.
Yeah. Yes.
Pick a different poison and you'll probably get a different psychoactive effect. These people are idiots.
If
Well,
you
dude,
go,
If I huff this paint, it's good too.
Yeah,
That's because
right.
it's poison too.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
toxic.
Lead.
If you go to French kiss
Idiot.
some toads, you're less likely to see them turned into princes and more likely to suffer from nausea, seizures, anxiety, or even death. These things.
Ooh, that's
can
real
kill you.
talk. That's real talk.
But it could
Like,
make you jump higher.
There's a
You
problem
mentioned
too in Colorado where like dogs who are out hiking will find like people's crap in the woods. Some people like go out in the woods and get super high and then they'll just poop in the woods. Dogs will eat that poop and then the dogs will get super sick from it. So make sure if you're doing toad licking or something, you poop in the toilet.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Poor dogs.
Do it for the dogs, you know?
So that's your WTF news of the day, guys.
But I love the creativity in cleansing this gene pool we have. It's amazing.
Tide Pod, yeah, it's like Tide Pods, bath salts.
Yeah, it's
You
like,
know,
Jesus,
Yeah.
we're trying.
World
to
Economic
keep it-
Forum's like, dude, our job is getting really easy.
Yeah.
We got to keep pushing this TikTok thing.
jumping out of moving cars. You know,
Just
the
make
whole,
more TikTok trends. That's what we need.
yeah.
Damn.
Oh my
Well,
goodness.
Keep on licking if you're into it, bro.
Keep on looking if you don't want to keep ticking. So that is your WTF news of the day. And let's go ahead and get into some of the Sam Bankman-Fried stuff. So the saga continues. As I had mentioned earlier in the show, it's no longer a ripple effect. It is a tidal wave, and it is impacting a lot of other cryptocurrency exchanges. We just got word today, not that we didn't see this coming already, but BlockFi is going to be filing for bankruptcy more than likely today. And so it's just another domino to fall. Crypto.com is also kind of on the bubble as far as that's concerned. And we'll see how that shakes out.
Genesis.
I saw it on TV. It must
Genesis
be
as well.
legit. What are you talking about?
That's
on
right.
TV.
Genesis. Yeah. We're going to get into some of the mainstream conversation as well. But the first thing that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention was this legislation that Sam Bankman-Fried was looking to push along with the U.S. government and the Biden administration. So buried deep into a 61-page report, the U.S. Attorney General and the Biden administration called for dramatic expansion into federal government's ability to seize and keep cryptocurrency. That's part of this bill, that they get to keep it. If enacted, the proposed changes would bolster both criminal forfeiture, which requires a conviction to permanently confiscate the property, as well as a civil forfeiture, which doesn't require a conviction or even criminal charges by the field. There are other issues with this, and I want everybody else to chime in and expand on some of the problems that they see with this new bill that's coming through.
Absolutely. And if you go further below, there even mention how this policy, if it's pushed through, can be used to also declare, hey, there's suspicion here, and they have the right or potential to seize it. Anyone involved in or affected by this would have to respond quickly of, hey, I'm against this. But usually when you're seizing that asset, your voice is gone because you have no access to it to defend yourself. So it's making it easier for them to actually put a halt onto that wallet or put a halt onto the asset itself. So it's for RICO and other situations. What worries me personally a lot, this legislation pushing through is the fact that just like gold back in the 20s when they were confiscating all the gold from everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is another way of taking the store of value from the common man and woman and making it easily accessible by governments to take it and then resell it or do whatever they deem useful to their enterprise and moving forward. So we should really look into what this means. I mean, of course, go after bad people, go after the bad guys, but just like the Patriot Act now allowed everything to where they question, why are you taking this money out of your own bank account? It's like, well, bro, since when am I having to justify all my hard-earned income and I declare it in my taxes, and yet you still question me on where's this going? Where did it come from?
Right.
Creating this control from above. You're no longer a truly free citizen. It's
well, you clearly have a right to life, liberty, and property, except for all these other places where we infringe on it, right?
Yeah.
And so that's like the principal conversation people need to have, but we're so consumed in bread and circus right now that I don't think very many people are actually informed to even know what their own rights are.
Right. And this is to Gwendolyn Gilliam's statement. This isn't just specifically to a party. This is the government control or oversight to their citizenry. So the right to property isn't being infringed here in terms of now they can actually take it from you before being found guilty and they can run with it without full proof if you do not react in time. So it's go ahead.
The other question is the law even legal? Like to the way laws, at least in the US, work is we have like layers of law, and the Constitution is the highest layer of law. So any law that is under the Constitution that disaffects the Constitution is basically not good law. It shouldn't be in place because the Constitution supersedes it, right? And so like I don't think anyone should be violent or anything, but I do think we need to start really pushing our republic to represent people properly, and that means representing your rights. Unfortunately, this isn't a red versus blue problem either. Let's please get that straight. Like we have to elevate ourselves beyond team sports when it comes to politics. This is about policy. It should be simple. You have a right to life, liberty, and property, and that's why you should hold your own keys and go on a lot of boating events.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I go water skiing all the time, dude.
But it makes you wonder who they would focus on. Let's say hypothetically that the government does pass this legislation and actually start seizing money. Do they go after big players first? Do they go after tiny little fish first? Just you and me? Do they go after medium-sized players that are maybe attached to some sort of business with their crypto, or just individual holders? It begs the question, because you look at a lot of these prior instances of the government doing this, and really what they're attached to, like you mentioned, Jaime, anything RICO. So anything that might have been money laundering through a business or something that looks shady, and any fruits of that tree up to and including close business partners or family, right? So that's somebody who might not have had anything to do with it, but unfortunately you have the same last name, or unfortunately you were a quiet investor that maybe didn't know what was going on, can all of a sudden have their assets seized.
Right.
Are they going to basically take that same approach where they try to add a criminal aspect to it? Because otherwise the backlash can be massive. And you hear cases of the government having seized in this fashion before property and real estate. And then the backlash from the public, came, and all of a sudden the IRS pushed all the money back. I'm talking about a convenience store owner. There was a story I read. A convenience store owner basically had $500,000+ in his bank account seized. He ran a convenience store, and $100,000+ also seized. And he's like, listen, I've ran this convenience store for 20+ years. This is my blood, sweat, and tears. I don't know what's going on. He went to the media. Of course, there was a massive backlash from the public, and the IRS ended up giving that money back. So the question is, who does the IRS, or who can the IRS target to where there won't be such a huge backlash to stop the overreach? And that's my big question: is what's the likely target here if enacted?
That's a good question.
And that's so the likely or the target should be people who are actually breaking the law. That's what should be. But just like the convenience store person occurred, he had the opportunity and support to reach out to the world and say, hey, this is what's happening with because this is happening everywhere. How about people who don't have that voice, or citizens that may not even know they had the option to reach out to the media, and the IRS or whatever organization is going to do the confiscation? It's like, hey, you had your chance. They never told them that, hey, you have to react quickly and publicly, or go to the court system and say, no, you're wrong. If they forfeit their assets. So it's almost like the people who aren't familiar, or the common person, will not know they have rights they can enforce to retain their property.
Yeah, that's the goal, right? Keep people uninformed as to what they can do, and they're going to make examples of people. I think this is going to follow something similar to what the ancient Roman government did, where they would say, hey, we're going to make an example out of this person just to let anyone else know, if you step up to us, this is what's going to happen to you too. I'm hoping that's not what happens. I'm hoping that bad law just gets repealed and gets shredded by its unconstitutionality. But
and an example of that is what happened to our
the Tornado Cash.
Tornado
Is that who
Cash
you're
is
talking
one.
about?
Yeah, where he's still in prison with no charges.
Well, that's the
Still in
thing.
prison
Yeah,
for
a guy
3
who just wrote some open source code and put it out on the internet, and then you have bad actors use said code. He's sitting in jail while Sam Bankman-Fried is, in the Bahamas hanging out in his illicitly bought $40 million mega mansion. Come on.
Right.
So it's hard. I'm just saying, like, it's hard to trust the government to do what's right on this when that's actively happening right now. You have your Snowdens of the world, your, Julian's of the world. In jail. And we want to trust, like Don said, a government that thinks that there's 8,000 genders to do the right thing. I mean, what are we doing? Like we can't get anything. We can't get the simple things right, the obvious, the biological things right. How are we going to get a space that the government frankly knows nothing about right?
Yeah.
It's kind of
the answer comes from education, and it comes from people taking ownership of what's rightfully theirs. And that starts with people holding their own private keys, honestly.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
If you hold your wealth, and you are the custodian of your wealth, then there's not a centralized exchange that can turn your money over. And
Exactly. But like it occurred with this guy that emptied or stole from the Silk Road, and years later, FBI and the government found all of his keys and everything in his house, pretty much were able to seize it. Of course, illegal situations or illegal activity should be punished. It's the common. So what happened with the Kardashians? When they announced or advertised a specific token, there's videos by the SEC themselves saying, "Hey, this is wrong. There should be clarity." Fine, but now they're silent with SBF in terms of let's do something about it or let's enforce. What's going on here? That's the big. When there's humans involved in the government aspect to make these decisions of enforcement, not enforcement, that's when the danger to the common citizenry with their properties arises.
Yeah.
And how do you keep them safe? It is no longer almost creating a situation where you're innocent until proven guilty is going away now.
Well,
and you have a right to a speedy trial. That's the other thing too. This whole you have a constitutional right to a speedy trial. You should not be indefinitely detained in prison or in jail, rather.
Yes, in the case of the coder.
Right.
Yeah, but
in the case of a lot of cases.
Yes.
Yeah, but our current legal system also was not designed for the number of people going through it right now.
Correct.
So you are
Correct.
absolutely right, Brandon. But the ability to get that number of people through the justice system it's not practical. I mean, it just
Well, the answer is simple. We'll make an artificial intelligence that'll solve all our problems for us, and we'll call it Skynet.
Yeah.
Let's go.
But so I guess earlier in the show, we talked as we were kind of getting into this topic, you guys had mentioned that this seemed staged, or that this seemed like it was an intentional falling out of SBF. But really the linchpin was CZ, was it not?
No,
Not necessarily.
No.
he was the one who called it out.
Yeah, no.
But that's what I'm saying. So all the can was continuing to get kicked down the road, right? So
Imagine
said-
how many more.
I know, but you had mentioned the timing seemed like it was too coincidental, and the person, the whistleblower was CZ.
Mhm.
I see what you're saying, but the timing being that they're like, we think we might be insolvent. We need to talk to some investors to see if we maybe can get a buyout or at least a line of credit. And then CZ is like, naturally, because he incubated them, looked at it and was like, let me just do due diligence, and if it's good, we'll take it on. But if there's something that doesn't sit, not just insolvent, but illegal, we're not touching it.
Yeah. So my understanding was that CZ ended up like airing everything out because of all the shit that SBF was talking about him and the legislation that he was pulling. So was it not that CZ actually kind of knew what was going on for a while and then decided to just make this happen, or no? Am I way off on that?
Well, if you're CZ, if you put yourself in that situation where you incubated an exchange and of course, what does he gain by doing that? Is, well,
Trust.
And two, what did he gain by incubating also an organization,
right?
Like an FTX to become one of the largest in the world is, of course, legislation and acceptance and adoption, and the fact that VCs were getting in there, banks were getting in there, pension funds were getting in there. I mean, there's even statements where there's over 1 million creditors being affected by this.
Yeah.
And then you see other investors where they're trying to do their diligence, and then SBF's telling, go fuck yourself with your due
that was a
diligence.
strong fist.
Yeah. But so you imagine, I just incubated this organization, and then the CEO of this organization is also saying, oh, CZ, I wish you were here at Washington, D.C., but you can't, almost like goading him who knows, it was banter, what it was, but you start seeing the movement in terms of now and then anyone could read the legislation trying to be pushed through the Congress on crypto. And if you read it, it's like, God damn, there goes decentralization, there goes ownership, like all this happening. So if you're CZ, if I were CZ, I'd be like, all right, guys, you know what? There's backstabbing, which is what he said going on. And what did he do? He didn't say governments go audit this, which should have been done. SEC should have been auditing, should have been asking questions as they were deploying capital. He did what he could do. He's like, guys, I no longer believe in this project. I'm going to sell the FTT we received as part of our investment as what was going on. That's all he said. And that's all he was doing is, I'm getting rid of these tokens. And it wasn't as much as what was owed. Like, it just triggered a cascade where he got called out on it. He didn't have the funds. And now everybody is being affected by it. And then you see the general media, like the New York Times Puff article, where at no point, and there was a tweet where it said they counted how many times the word fraud was mentioned in the article, illiquidity. There's so many terms.
The New York Times article is what you're talking about. Yes.
That should have been mentioned, and it never was.
Yeah. So what Jaime is referring to is that there was a New York Times article shortly after the Sam Bankman-Fried bankruptcy, and there was a lot left out, to say the least. But I think, Jaime, it just actually further. I'm not trying to make the argument that CZ was part of this whole thing, but by me asking the question, CZ kind of blew everything up, and you guys talking about the timing and how it seems staged and everything else. I'm not really necessarily saying that it's not, but CZ, it seems as if he was the one that kind of like pushed the lever. He pushed the red button on FTX. So if we're going to make the argument that it was staged, then we have to question whether or not, like, if that's the case, CZ was the one that like actually made all this kind of come to light.
Do you know what the red button label was that he pushed?
What the label on the red button was?
Yes.
No.
Centralized control.
Yeah.
So by pushing that, now FTX is out of the game.
I know. I get that.
it's
I get
through-
that. I'm talking about just the timing itself.
Yeah,
When
he's the
would have been.
whistleblower. Yes,
Yeah.
he is the whistleblower. Absolutely, Brad. You're 100% right in that. Does that mean he's in on it? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, like I said, everybody wants to act like CZ's the good guy in here and he's the savior. And
you made,
maybe
and we
he
made
is.
and we made the point
But-
about how what kind of risk there is with him
Correct.
being the most
Right.
powerful man in crypto.
And that's the thing. Any day he could wake up and change his tune. And
Yeah.
he's still a centralized exchange right now, the most powerful man in crypto. I'll maintain that. Sailor's up there, but he's a Bitcoin maxi, so it's easy for a lot of people just to wave him off, other than giving him props for having a whole lot of money, or they hate on him and say he's stupid, But unless it's Sailor, CZ's the man, and there's massive risk in that. Right now, it looks good, and I hope it stays that way. But for a long time, everybody was saying the same thing about SBF for a very long time. So what's the difference there? I mean, you do have a point. And I hope he blew the whistle for all the right reasons. I hope he stays altruistic in what it looks like he's trying to do, and the trust that he's trying to bring to centralized exchanges, which is an oxymoron, but he's trying nonetheless. But at the end of the day, if he gets Jack Mod and basically forced to renounce his good guy throne, why won't he?
Right.
Yeah.
Don,
Getting smoked by our chat, homie.
Don actually did say guilty by association. He says, I don't trust anyone involved in this story. It's all muddy. And
well, hold on. Can I just say something to that particular comment too?
Yeah.
Again, do not think for a second that because a centralized exchange that traded cryptocurrency assets is a representation of DeFi and crypto of the whole, as a whole.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. Is it an ugly part of the overall game? Yes. But again, the problem with centralized exchanges is it's where all the new blood and the new money and the uninformed, the uneducated money goes to first, because it is very, very user-friendly as far as web interface goes. You can use it very easily compared to other parts of DeFi and crypto as a whole. That's why it gives all of crypto a black eye. But again, this is a centralized exchange problem. This is a problem for the likes of the SBFs. This is a problem for the likes of the Coinbase, the Crypto.coms, the Krakens, the BlockFis, all centralized exchanges. This is their problem. That yes, CZ is trying to harden right now in his current state. But this is not a problem for decentralized exchanges. This is not a Bitcoin problem. This is not a protocol or a software problem at all.
It's a legal problem with people who are abstracting. They're functionally taking really good design where you have, distributed ledger, you have some proof of consensus mechanism, you have people holding their keys. So that's a very secure network where if you don't have that key, you can't send that money to and from, or can't send that NFT or whatever the asset might be. What you can do is look at it. You can see the cryptographic representation of it publicly, and that's it. And so they took that, and all they did is built a business on top of it, and they're like, hey, go through our website to get to this. And so they're holding the keys. They're laughing all the way to the bank. That's
the key right there. If you hold your seed phrase, this is not your problem. It's not.
Tam, you want to answer that one?
And that's a good point, which ties
Yes.
into what we've been speaking.
Yep.
The big
And
Can cryptocurrency survive without central exchanges?
yes.
yes,
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
slower adoption.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the only reason I bring up that question is because someone else actually mentioned in the chat, and I just lost it. but we're talking about centralized exchanges, like not being able to trust any of them. Like, what's the process look like as somebody who's not an expert in this, it's still learning all the ins and outs. How has it become peer-to-peer without a central exchange?
Bitcoin. So
if I'm going to send you
you're blending
Bitcoin,
two.
if I'm going to send you Bitcoin,
Yeah.
can I do that without a central exchange?
Absolutely. That
Yes.
was the brilliance of the go ahead.
Let's just look at this from dating. It's like, well, if I don't go on a dating app, how can I meet someone I can date? It's like, well, you can. There are, believe it or not, there's ways you can meet people outside of Grindr. You can, like,
Right.
you can go out. And so the point is that Jaime was about to get to is that there's all kinds of ways you're supposed to be able to get cryptocurrencies, and you can trade them peer to peer just with an application. And Jaime, go ahead and expand on that.
And so exchanges, what is the importance of exchanges? Is it's usually the easiest way to get into crypto if you're not comfortable or looking into crypto. So for example, Coinbase is an exchange where that was my first purchase ever. I went to Coinbase, created KYC, did everything I needed to do.
Yeah.
And then I was able to buy into an asset. What alternative could I have had without it is finding someone like, not through Grindr or any of these apps, but just go out there and find someone who is involved.
Still talking about Grindr.
Well, yeah.
You got to use the hot examples in order to get people spiced up.
So that's where you
hyperbole.
Find someone in the industry and tell them, hey, I'm looking to buy Bitcoin or whatever the asset is. Could you help me? And they would have their own pool. They could sell me. I give them the cash, and now they transfer it to a wallet that I own. So that's the original way of doing it.
Right.
Bitcoin was created as a protocol for transfer of value, transfer of money.
Peer-to-peer cashless system.
That's it. That's the genesis. So now, like El Salvador and other places, as if there is adoption of Bitcoin, now I can start transacting directly without any fiat involvement of buying coffee for whatever sats the equivalent is in dollars, and just work between us or work peer-to-peer on transacting. You can buy flights now. There's quite a few services that are coming online that accept Bitcoin instead of just fiat.
But it would be through a warm wallet, correct?
It could be through a cold wallet too, where you're going to do the transaction.
Okay.
And then the cold wallet, all it does is approve or decline the transaction. You sign that indeed I release these funds to that other wallet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Travala is a website that I've used a lot for that exact thing. But we're also forgetting all the work that's being done on direct on and off ramps protocols that are coming out. Kosh is one, Kash. That Kosh.io is one. There are multiple in the works right now that are looking at this legislation coming out and saying, okay, how might the proposed legislation affect what we're doing as a direct on and off ramp for fiat into crypto? And how can we not circumvent, but how can we remain legal with the current wording? So there's a lot of things that are really, really close to being ready to pull the trigger. But in the meantime, unless you mine Bitcoin, you're right, Brad. It could be hard for a new person to try to onboard money into crypto. So I've heard, I'm not endorsing this at all, but I have heard of some people that find somebody who's got a lot of crypto and they pay them cash. And, then that person sends them cryptocurrency. I've heard of people doing that. I don't know, we're not going to endorse that here, but that is something that some people do.
That doesn't seem all that practical either.
It's not, but for the time being, there are protocols that are working on this, and in the meantime, if you want to get into the space through a SEX right now, a central exchange that is currently working. Like right now, Coinbase right now is working and seemingly not under threat right this moment, but put your money in and then immediately transfer it to at least a warm wallet, if not a cold wallet, and then go from there. The problem is when people hold money on these centralized exchanges, they hold it because they're trading and they think they have to have their entire portfolio on the centralized exchange while their bots work or their trades come to fruition, and they just, well, I have to hold it there. My trade didn't hit yet. Like, well, if you're worried about that sort of thing, just only have a very small amount of your portfolio on the centralized exchange. Then don't have your whole bag on a centralized exchange. Get in there, do what you need to do directly, and then get out. Don't hold your crypto places where you don't hold the keys to that user interface. Just stop doing that and stop trusting people that do hold the keys to do the right thing. That's Binance included. That's Coinbase included. Yeah. That's any centralized exchange. If you hold your money on those places long term, you are automatically wrong. You're automatically at super risk. If you get in, get out because that's the only way you know how right now, then so be it. You are relatively safe in that manner. But yeah, you might come into some blocks with banks and whatnot. You might have to try a different bank account. You might have to wire money instead of instantly transfer money directly from a savings account. There are things right now that you just have to work through because we are still this early, and people complain about crypto as if it's this completely mature space that has all the answers. And we don't. We know the question. We know the problem that Jaime brings up all the time. And the problem is people didn't trust their government. They certainly don't trust the financial institutions. So they made a space to transact directly peer-to-peer to keep all the middleman and the BS and the corruption out. Now people want to act like crypto is a developed space, like the financial system as we know it is, traditional finances, and it is not. So all these questions people ask are valid questions, but you've got to understand the answers are still not simple. The answers are still being worked on. So just minimize your risk in the meantime. That's what we're saying. Do not hold your money anywhere where you do not directly own the 12 or 24 seeds to that space. Don't do it.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's similar to like, hey, I'm going to a concert and I want to buy some merch. I'm going to get all the money out of my bank account and have it in my pocket just in case I need to spend some of it. It's the exact same. Like, that sounds asinine, but you put it in to the crypto space and it's commonplace. So it's just an education thing. So don't feel stupid, but please, like, your future self will look back at whatever moment you decided, I'm going to just take control of my finance. I'm going to take control of my private keys. You'll look back on that and go, that was pivotal. Like, I really put my family and our future wealth in a completely different position. If I didn't do that, we'd be in a very, very different reality.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I mean, and that's the thing too. Don't act like crypto is so stable right now where you can just play the in and out game. Well, I'm going to put some into my bank account, and then I'm going to throw some back in from the crypto space back into my bank account and bounce back and forth like it's just a Venmo type of thing. It is not. Like, this is like totally different space. And each time you do that, you're right. I bet you Jaime is going to say you're going to start raising a red flag for the bank to shut it off, and you're raising a red flag for the IRS to audit you because you're in and out, in and out, in and out. If
each
you're
one
going to
is
be
a
in the
taxable
crypto,
event.
Right. If you're going to be in the crypto space, get your money in, get it to a wallet immediately. And then, like Brandon said, play with a little bit at a time, right? When I just got back from Vegas and I took a stack of money, but the vast majority of it, the cash, I kept in the safe. I would take out a couple $100 at the time, anything I was willing to lose, at the time, a little bit at a time, because I was there for 8 days. So why would I walk around with my entire damn wad of cash for all 8 days, risking something happening to all of it at once instead of just
people know you're rich? That's how. Self-validation.
You just have to play smart, and it's not like Brandon said or Data Lord said. It's not because you're dumb. It's just because this space is not mature. So you need to be mature within this space and not just listen to a YouTuber and not just listen to the first person that told you something or an unsophisticated friend. You and you alone need to have reasons for why you do things. And the number one thing that you do in this space is you hold your keys. That is the number one thing you do. And if you are somewhere where you don't hold the keys, you need to understand that you are walking in a minefield. And unless you know exactly how to navigate it, get your ass out. I mean, just have some pride. Have some accountability for when you do well, but also for when you don't do well. Learn, own it, because you want to always blame everybody else. It's going to be hard to move this space forward because now we're playing to the weakest link instead of playing to the strongest link of the chain. So we all need to move forward together through education and understanding, not just doing because somebody on YouTube told me this is the next big thing.
I saw it on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Gotta
treat
do it.
treat the centralized exchanges as the bank.
They're
And
landmines.
they are. I mean, what they are. How many times? I mean, if you want to be questioned every time you put in a larger amount, where'd this come from? If you want to be questioned on why are you taking this much out? Yeah.
Right.
Oh shit. You don't want to say? Well, customer declined to say. What do you think that's gonna do? If you want to avoid all that, keep it in your wallet, meaning under your mattress, your safe, your own control. If you want to stop answering all that stuff,
Yeah.
not because you're trying to do something bad, it's like, well, where's my property rights here? If I'm questioned every single time I'm trying to make a movement. So look at the exchange in that case. If there's a bank run, we all know what happens. What are we, 3 generations away from a bank run already?
Mhm.
So this generation has no clue what a bank run means.
Yeah.
If you lived abroad, you may have experienced it.
Mhm.
In
Just
modern era.
recently. What was it Lebanon?
Lebanon, yes. Where they're even in China,
Yes.
they're going after the banks. Like, where's my
So sad.
fucking money? You know, it's like their life savings are gone. So if you want that to happen to you, or the possibility of that happening to you, yeah, keep it on the exchange. Keep it in the bank. Keep it
Yeah.
where
It's grand theft is at the end of the day is what it is. It is. But we can protect ourselves against this type of grand theft. And you should. Like please,
That's-
we're not like we say this a lot. Please don't see it as like something that we're just being a resounding gong about. Like we are honestly like trying to make sure people are informed so that they can protect their assets. You got to watch your assets, you know?
Yep.
You
And
do.
I'll just address this with Don. He said, what's the good of the strongest link in the chain when there's a weak one? We're finding all the weak ones right now. Yes, but this is the same thing we keep talking about. FTX is not the first in line to fail. We've been screaming and screaming, and you've heard in crypto since day one, not your keys, not your cheese. Everybody's acting like FTX is a black swan or a new
We had
thing.
Mount
It's
Gox a
not.
while ago.
Yeah, Mount Gox was the OG of this sort of thing right here. And since then, we've had a lot of other central exchanges, practice bad habits, which led to their collapse, have just straight up theft and rug pull. And FBX is just next in line. Everybody wants to act like this is a new thing. And it might be for a lot of people because they're the fresh blood in crypto right now. This is their very first bear market and rug pull. Welcome to the club, guys. You just earn your stripes, but there's plenty of people with stripes behind you that have been here. So it's not that we're playing to the weakest link. It's that we've been screaming this since day one. And guess what? FTX is not the last one at all. Right. This space will move forward in 6 months. We'll have the start of another bear run. Everybody's going to FOMO into crypto and they're going to go straight to a centralized exchange. And FTX is going to be a thing of the past. At least the memory of it will. It will happen.
Bull run. You said bear run.
Or excuse me, the next bull run. And why do we know that? Because it happens every single time. So we keep screaming the same things. If you don't hold your seed phrase in this space, an FTX, a Mount Gox, anything in between will hit you eventually. It'll be the same wolf with a different mask. So people have to start understanding and having education in this space that if you don't hold your keys, then you are literally risking every single thing on any user interface that does.
Yeah. Yeah, you should have some money that you're okay playing and experimenting with, but please don't do that with your main DCA. Don't. There was also I was just reminded we were talking about different ways you can get crypto. A lot of other people rent hash rate too. Like if they're like, yo, I want to get crypto without having to actually buy the crypto, you can pay people who do ASIC mining to point hash rate from their rigs at your wallet, basically. So you can basically borrow their miners, mine some Bitcoin, it goes straight to your wallet, and there's no history of that Bitcoin other than it just being on your wallet.
Yep. So good combo.
Moving on, I wanted to get into this last segment, and we're talking about a little bit about staking. I know that we've spent the better part of the last 10 days in just the SBF fallout and how it's impacted, but there are still ways that we can do some and make money in this space. And actually now is the best time to start doing it. When everybody else is running for the hills, that's when you should be running to them, running away from them. So I think this is a perfect time to start introducing some of these other ways that we can actually make money. And then so not only now that we're catching the bottom, but also as it continues to make you steady passive income, correct? With staking.
Correct.
So what is for the green bean out there who's never encountered this, proof of stake or staking or creating a node literally is, why is it a profitable, or how does it generate revenue? So proof of work is because it's doing math and it's securing the network and processing transactions, you get paid. Well, they're like, you know what, proof of work or energy consumption should come to a point where it shouldn't be the consensus mechanism or the way we secure the network or process transactions. Let's find another way. Staking is the other way, the next experiment in consensus mechanisms, meaning to secure the network and process transactions. So proof of stake, how does it work? This consensus mechanism or this validation, the concept is, how do I keep the network honest? Well, if you're willing to spend a shit ton of money to secure the network, it's very unlikely you will kamikaze yourself or commit suicide by exposing the network. Well, proof of stake is that next iteration. What are you putting at stake to keep the network honest? It's you're putting your store of value. So the concept is the following. Ethereum is an example of this. You need 32 ETH to create a node where you start securing the network and processing transactions. That 32 ETH is put into the server where you lock the key and then tell the network, guys, I'll process this transaction. If I do anything dishonest, you can slash my value. That's what staking is. So if you're wondering, shit, I just grab one of these miners and just plug it into my house and I produce money. What a scam, guys. No. It's actually a way you're really providing a service to that blockchain you're mining for. That's what proof of stake is. So that's the introduction to this category. So Ethereum, there's so many others that are in deploying under that stake mechanism to secure and process transactions is where we're at. So
there's two big points that I want to expound on. The first is you have people who are actually hosting a validator. Okay. When you're hosting a validator, what that means is you've literally built enterprise grade server infrastructure. You've locked your money in, and basically your nuts are on the table. If you do something wrong, your nuts get punched. It's kind of how it works. You actually have something to lose for acting dishonestly, and you have something to gain for acting honestly. So why would I act dishonestly? It only makes sense that I would act honestly. And then the second piece is you have people who are delegated stakers, and they have a different level of risk. A delegated staker, what they have at risk is they're putting trust in the person who's hosting the validator node, saying, you know what, I believe these people are going to do right by the network, and accordingly, I'm going to make money because of it. Now, if they're wrong, if they picked the wrong validator, they don't get paid, and that's what they're putting at risk. What they're getting put at risk is the validator might not pay them out correctly. And so that's the big idea here of like, you want to find people who are hosting a validator who are consistent and are trustworthy. And then you as a delegated staker can say, okay, I'm going to make it so my money, it points towards that node. That node is validating for me and I get paid for it. And some this is different for every blockchain that does proof of stake, but and not all of them do this delegated thing. Like ETH doesn't do this delegated staking thing, but there are some like Tezos and Cosmos and Solana, just and Polygon Matic, just to name some big players who do support that. You can do non-custodial delegated staking, meaning if I'm hosting a validator, I never hold your private keys. You're still holding your private keys. You're just saying, hey, since I have my private keys, this validator represents me on the network and I get paid because of it, right? And so I'm sure there's a lot more we can talk about with this, but you can clearly see, like, you don't have to have a huge amount of sophistication or complexity added to your life to make money in this. You can be a delegated staker, and it doesn't take much. It takes you just getting that set up, and then your money's just growing without you having to really do anything other than just watch it grow.
Yeah. I mean, and simply put, all staking is you have a certain protocol that you choose that you believe has some value in the space, most importantly, future value in the space. And once you have identified that conviction asset and you've chosen to invest in said asset, all staking is locking up those coins so that you earn a yield on said coin. So it has nothing to do with market value necessarily. It has to do with you earning yield on the coin you have locked up. So there's no point in staking if you don't want to earn yield of a coin you have staked. So it's not like you just earn money. That's a market value issue. You earn a yield of more of said coin that you stake. So if your coin does not hold value or accrue in value in the future, then you're earning yield for a coin that is going the wrong way or backwards. But it is a very relatively simple hands-off method of earning passive income in this space. That does not mean that it comes without risk. There are all kinds of ways to earn passive income in this space. Off camera, we thought of a few in this space. You can dollar cost average, which we've talked about. You can stake, which we're talking about now. You can be a farmer for liquidity pools. You can have airdrops. You can trade. You can do DeFi lending. You can do NFT sales or royalties. You can mine. Okay. But all those aren't just a simple hands-off thing. There's a lot more to it. Yes, you can make money, but there's risks in every single one, or there's further education in every single one. Staking is a relatively easy one to do, relatively just very passive, but you have to lock up your coins for a predetermined amount of time. In return, you earn yield. What you do with that yield is up to you. If you want to sell it, sell it. If you want to reinvest the yield into a different coin, reinvest the yield in a different coin. If you want to take your rewards and recycle them right back into your stack of coins so that you continually get a larger and larger pool of staked assets, you can do that too. There's a lot of things, but risk number one is that you have to identify a conviction asset. You don't just want to stake something because it can be staked. You need to have reasons why it is your conviction asset, reasons why you believe in the longevity of the coin. Because the real power of staking, just like compounding numbers, comes in holding long term. If you hold long term and you've identified the right conviction asset, then you can make a huge pool of money that hopefully in a good solid bull run, you can cash in for life-changing money. So it's a good thing to start to learn, but there are absolute risks. Like I said, the market value of the coin goes to zero. Now you have a huge staked pool of zero value as far as dollars are concerned. If you choose the wrong validator, you can get slashed. And even though your coins are safe, you won't earn rewards because your validator was bad.
So let me answer this question real quick.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So this is actually a brilliant question. I appreciate your interaction here. So how can you espouse protecting your wealth at all costs on one hand and putting your coins at risk through, slashing on the other? Am I missing something? So the validator themselves, they're at risk for slashing if they don't perform correctly. You as a delegated staker do not get slashed. What you are at risk for is if you're if the validator that you've said, hey, this one represents me, messes up, you might not get paid consistently on time. But your coins do not get slashed.
Right.
The validators do.
This is exactly, and we've talked about this in our Discord, which definitely go to our Discord and check that out. We'll put the link in the chat. But there are centralized exchanges, your Coinbase and your FTX and the like, that run validator nodes. Don't delegate to those guys.
Right.
Why? Because they represent everything wrong, but B, they rarely, if ever, Binance included, contribute to the actual code and the protocol that you're staking in. They just have a node because they can make money. So you don't want to stake with a centralized, exchange validator just because you recognize the name and you think, well, it's a big name, so it's safe.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
you,
like FTX.
yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to know how to validate cryptocurrency to play in the staking game. You don't. But what you want to do is identify a conviction asset, one, and reasons why you want to stake one coin over another. And then number two, at least look at the validators and what they've done in the past. Look at their slashing records, look at their contributions to the protocols, and make sure that you're contributing to a validator that's worth their salt in the game, that they have something in the game other than just money, which a lot of the centralized exchange validators do. They just have a lot of money, so they spin up a node and they make money off of you, versus a true validator that actually contributes to the chain that you're on. So again, there's still understanding there, and you still have to figure it out. But once you do figure it out, staking is one of the easiest forms of passive income in cryptocurrency for a number of reasons, things we won't even get into, like airdrops and exposure. And it's just a phenomenal game that, you know, I am in myself for
That'll be a
sure.
good talk.
I absolutely stake my crypto. So
Yeah. And if I just want to mention two things on this. Sorry, Brendan.
No, you're good.
I love the question, though. How can you espouse protecting your wealth at all costs on one hand, but putting your coins at risk through slashing on the other? We've answered that. But also in terms of protecting your wealth. So let's say Bitcoin, you don't stake. It's proof of work. You store that. So that's your gold. But like any investor, you also have silver or bronze or whatever other metals. That's kind of how I see the other coins personally.
jewels, diamonds.
Jewels,
Palladium.
diamonds. And if I can earn a yield by staking, okay, I'm willing to risk those. So that's how you can espouse. It's kind of like a balance of, okay, here's my gold, here's my silver. Let me put my silver to work. And doing your research to ensure, because even Boss Don mentioned he changed his validator in Cosmos. So in other words, he put it in one, he did his research like Tamp said, and realized, oh, you know what, there's this validator that's doing a better job because they're most likely investing, developing, they're active in the community in that blockchain. Thus he changed it and now his yields went up. So that's what the research does for you. And that's what we're espousing, is there are ways to continually build yield. Now, the last statement I'll make, which is related to what Tamp also said of it could go to zero. When you buy a crypto or invest in a crypto, look at it as if you're buying pesos or pesetas or euros. It is not dollar. And just like those coins or those fiats can go to shit or climb, so does the actual asset or token you're investing in. It has market volatility, so you will be earning in pesos, euros, or whatever that token is. So look at it in those terms, so it makes sense to you on what does it mean that I'm not making this amount of dollars? No, you're actually invested in euros in this instance.
Right. Yeah.
That's it. Sorry, Brandon.
One last, because I know we're coming up on time here, but I want to answer this question. So when you stake, it also helps secure the network, if I'm not mistaken. So yes, the way that functions is the person who's validating, they're providing a service. You can delegate to them, and you get paid for delegating because you're providing a service and that you're providing stability for the price action because there's less in supply. And so that's one thing. The second thing is your validator will get paid for providing that service, and that increases the amount of nuts they have on the table that can get smashed. Does that make sense? Yes. And so you're not at risk of being slashed as a delegator. You're just at risk of not being paid if the delegator's a turd. But the delegator has more at risk for acting badly the longer things go on and the more people believe in them. So it basically incentivizes you to just do right by your community, because not only do you have the money at stake, but you also have this community that trusts you, that you'd be screwing over.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that's the main thing. You secure the network, not because you staking your coins actually does that. What it does is it keeps all the biggest validators that have the biggest pool of said coin. It deters them from acting maliciously and taking over the coin through governance or through a rug pull. It will actually cost them money to do that. and they're better off just making money by continuing to do good.
It's a shot in the
And
foot.
you know, like some people will say that like staking is a Ponzi, and it's not. If you stake the wrong coin and get rugged or get overthrown by what's called a 51% attack and you lose all your coin, that is a risk for sure and can happen. But it is absolutely not a Ponzi. It's the same thing as a savings account that actually works and pays you more than 1 cent every 6 months for holding your money in a savings account. That is essentially the way it works. You take out all the corrupt middlemen from the banking system, and savings accounts are great as long as our dollar doesn't go to shit. So the system works, but it's the bad actors that get into the fiat banking world that make it not worth it. And cryptocurrency is changing that, where it's the same type of thing. You lock up your savings in a conviction asset and you get paid a yield for doing that. You just take out the middlemen that take out the yield for you and give us 5 cents every 6 months, you know, as a thank you for doing that. So it absolutely works.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is also an interesting comment here, and I'm going to leave it at this because we will continue that conversation perhaps on Friday. But Bitcoin Motorist appears to be a maxi and says that proof of work is the only honest way to secure a network. That is going to be a very interesting conversation, but I think we should continue to have that on Friday. But if you want to have it before Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern time when we'll be live next, make sure you go check us out on Discord. The link is in the description. We'd love to have you guys over there. It's absolutely free to join, just to continue to be a part of our conversations and grow our community. So go check us out there. And if you guys have been watching on Own the Chaos, I'll be live again at 3:45 Eastern time to cover NVIDIA and Cisco's earnings here after hours. So make sure you guys are tuning into that. I certainly appreciate this. Don also is not here, but his channel is streaming this as well. We appreciate you guys tuning in too. We're trying to grow the community, right? It's not trying to be separate junctures here, but so for my Own the Chaos crew, give me your feedback. Would you like to continue to see DCTV broadcasted over at Own the Chaos? Would love your feedback there. Before we get into anything, I'm so used to saying that now, but lastly, we'll get into birthdays. Today, Pete Davidson's 28. The guy looks like he's damn near 50. But Pete Davidson's 28. Tomorrow, Pete Davidson was the only notable birthday. But tomorrow,
No, Danny DeVito. What are you?
no, tomorrow, Danny DeVito's birthday is tomorrow.
Sorry.
'Cause we won't be live. But Danny DeVito turns 77 tomorrow.
So then I started blasting.
That's right. RuPaul's 61. I actually thought RuPaul was older than that.
Damn.
That's because RuPaul looks fantastic.
He does.
When
But
you have caked on makeup,
He does look fantastic. But, like,
Fabulous.
he's been around forever, and I just thought he was older than that. Rachel McAdams is 43. I love that. I love her. She's awesome.
She's funny.
And last but not least, we have a male porn actor today who was 72. His name's Buck Adams. 72 years old. That's how long he's been in the game. He's most known for Anal Angels 2, Backdoor Birds 2, Backdoor Brides 2, Breast Wishes 9, Million Man Gangbang, and last but not least, Love on the Hershey Highway. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you on Friday.
Let's
Dirty
go
Shovel Gang.
Keep
Stay
calm
calm.
and hodl on.
Huddle on.